Sanders has shown surprising strength in the early voting states and in some hypothetical matchups against Trump. But what is his path to the nomination? Senator Sanders joins me now from Burlington, Vermont. Welcome back to Meet the Press. Happy holidays, Senator.
Happy holidays to you and to all of your viewers.
Thank you very much. Well, let's talk about, first of all, this data breach and the dust-up between you and the Democratic Party. You fired one staffer, suspended two others. Has any other action been taken? Any update now on this dispute?
Well, we're trying to work with the DNC to put this whole thing behind us. There were two breaches. We screwed up on one, and the other one, we did the right thing. Right now, we're in negotiations with the DNC. Frankly, Andrea, I think for the American people, there are far more important issues, having to do with the disappearance of the American middle class and huge income and wealth inequality and climate change and a corrupt campaign finance system. So I think on both sides, we'd like to focus on the real issues.
Well, while you're trying to, as you point out, focus on the real issues, there has been charges of sexism back and forth between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. He used a vulgar term against her and then said it wasn't really that vulgar. Then she said that she's going to have Bill Clinton campaigning in January, and he tweeted out in the last 24 hours, Hillary Clinton has announced she is letting her husband out to campaign, but he's demonstrate a penchant for sexism, so inappropriate. Are we going to get into an argument not only of sexism between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, but Donald Trump attacking Bill Clinton?
Well, I tell you what, we're going to let my wife Jane out, and I think Hillary is going to be in real trouble. But look, the real issues are not Donald Trump's vulgarity, and he is vulgar. It is the fact that Donald Trump thinks we should not be raising the minimum wage. He believes that wages in America are too high. This guy wants to give hundreds of billions of dollars in tax breaks to the top 0.3%. And meanwhile, what he wants to do is divide our country between Latinos and Americans and between Muslims and everybody else. That's not the kind of America we need. Andrea, what we have got to do is ask the hard questions, and that is, why is it that the people on top are doing phenomenally well while almost everybody else is seeing a decline in their real incomes? Why is it that we're not effectively addressing the fact that climate change is absolutely real? I am in Burlington, Vermont right now. Nobody can recall a Christmas Eve the likes of which we have seen, where the temperature was 65 degrees. And what the scientists are telling us, if we don't get our act together, we're going to be leaving a planet to our kids and grandchildren which is not going to be in good shape. And yet Donald Trump, among others, denies even the reality of climate change, let alone doing something about it. So we got some really important issues to discuss in this campaign, and I intend to do just that.
Well, while these are really important issues, what recent polling shows is that Americans since Paris, since Bernardino, are more concerned about terrorism, the threat of terrorism, than they are about the economy, at least according to the polling. And in fact, you had polled within 8 points of Hillary Clinton in a recent CNN poll taken before last Saturday night's debate, but the margin widened to 33 points among those polled after the Saturday night debate, which focused heavily on foreign policy. Let me just finish. Doesn't it show that you still, among people who are concerned about foreign policy, concerned about terror, you really have some ground to make up against Hillary Clinton?
You know, it's interesting the way CNN spun that poll, because you know what that poll showed? It showed between their last poll and this current poll, we gained 12 points on Hillary Clinton. She dropped 8, we went up by 4. That is the message of the poll. Another poll came out in Rasmussen, also showing us closing the gap. In New Hampshire, some of the recent polls have us ahead, and in Iowa, we're close to catching up to her. So I think what the polls are showing is that the American people are responding to our message. Now, in terms of ISIS and in terms of foreign policy, these are, of course, huge issues. The American people are concerned about another terrorist attack, and what I have said over and over again, we must destroy ISIS, but we must do it in a way that is smart. I voted against the war in Iraq because I thought that was a counterproductive act. I don't believe that the United States of America alone can be effective in destroying ISIS. We need an international coalition. We need, as King Abdullah of Jordan tells us, Muslim troops on the ground. We're maybe beginning to see some success in Iraq, in Ramadi, where Iraqi troops may be taking back that city. So my view, the United States and the UK and France and Russia and other superpowers have got to be strong in supporting Muslim troops on the ground. But let me be very clear, Andrea, I will do everything that I can to prevent the United States getting into perpetual warfare in the quagmire of the Middle East.
But
so we need a broad coalition to destroy ISIS. I think most Americans, by the way, are sympathetic to that perspective.
At the same time, the polling has shown that on foreign policy and on ISIS, that you are far, far behind Hillary Clinton. And you have said that you would somehow persuade the Saudis to stop fighting in Yemen and turn their attention to ISIS. No one else has been able to get that, to persuade the Saudis to do that. How could you, as commander-in-chief, do what other presidents have failed to do in terms of getting the Saudis to listen to what America wants for the fight against these terror groups?
Well, it's what has got to happen, and certainly the United States and the other major powers have a great deal of leverage. A, it cannot be the United States alone. B, what many people in the Middle East understand, it must be the Muslims themselves on the ground destroying ISIS. So what we need is, in fact, a coalition. Saudi Arabia, Qatar are incredibly wealthy countries, and they have got to start using some of their resources to help us destroy ISIS, rather than, in the case of Saudi Arabia, fighting in Yemen. In the case of Qatar, spending hundreds of billions of dollars in preparation for the World Cup in 2022. So what I think American leadership is about is putting together that international coalition to destroy ISIS. But let me also say this, Andrea. I know sometimes the media thinks that is the only issue. It is an enormously important issue. We have got to defend America. We have got to destroy ISIS. But right now, people are watching this program who are 55, 60 years of age. They have $0 in their retirement account. They're wondering how they're going to make it in their old age, which is why we have to expand Social Security. There are millions of young people out there desperately want to go to college, don't want to leave college deeply in debt. We have got to deal with that issue. We're the only major country on earth that doesn't provide paid family and medical leave, doesn't provide health care for all people as a right. We cannot ignore those issues. So my view is, yes, of course, we've got to focus on foreign policy. We have to destroy ISIS. But I will not stop fighting for working families and the middle class, will not stop taking on a billionaire class whose greed in many ways is destroying our economy.
Now, as you head into these early voting states, you have to win New Hampshire, your neighboring state. You're ahead in most polls there. Do you feel that the Democratic Party, led by Debbie Wasserman Schultz, is trying to sabotage your campaign and not being an impartial arbiter going into these early fights?
Well, as you've indicated, there's no question but that both Iowa and New Hampshire are enormously important for me or for any other candidate. When I began this campaign, Andrea, we were nationally at 3–4% in the polls. We are way, way behind in Iowa, way, way behind in New Hampshire. In New Hampshire, I think we may be a little bit ahead. In Iowa, we're closing the gap. So in my view, we've got a real shot to win Iowa. We've got a real shot to win New Hampshire. I am going to be spending a lot of time in the next 4 or 5 weeks in Iowa, in New Hampshire. We have a wonderful grassroots organization, a lot of volunteers who are knocking on doors. And if we can win in Iowa or New Hampshire, I think it really does open us up to a path toward victory. Now, some of the national polls, as you may know, show me, last big national poll that I saw had me beating Donald Trump by 13 points. So I think if we can defeat Secretary Clinton for the Democratic nomination, I think we got a real shot to win this whole thing.
And is the DNC finally, is the DNC giving you a fair shot?
Look, we have had our differences of opinion with the DNC, but at the end of the day, the DNC, Hillary Clinton, and myself, we want to defeat right-wing extremism in this country. So we're trying to work out our differences of opinion.
Well, Senator, thank you very much, and a happy holiday to you and your family. Safe travels.
Thank you very much.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and then click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.